We have another exciting opportunity to interview an amazing alumnus of Hawaiian Mission Academy, Aunty Rachel Layman, class of 1950. Aunty Rachel, how are you doing today?
I'm blessed. The Lord's given me another day of life. I'm blessed.
Awesome. And 1950, that means it's 2020 right now. So you are going to be celebrating your what?
70th year.
Oh man, how's that feel?
Old.
I would say wise and
Oh, yes, that's
yeah,
true.
yeah. And Auntie, tell us a little bit about HMA 70 years ago.
Certainly isn't like it is now. We had, well, my class was fortunate, shall I say. We moved from the Maikiki Street campus in December of 49 to go to the Pensacola. So we were the first class to graduate out of the Pensacola campus.
Oh, wow. And that must have had some feeling of pride and excitement.
Excitement, yes.
Yeah. And so they started building that campus when you were just starting in high school, or were you moved there your senior year, 1 year, and then graduated?
We moved there the second half of the senior year.
Second half of the senior, so not even a full year. Oh, it's a fresh building.
Very fresh.
That's so exciting.
Just two buildings. We didn't have the one where the home ec, and library.
Oh,
We just had the two classroom
there's
buildings.
two classrooms.
And the cafeteria was in the cafeteria, registrar's office, even the principal's office, and the business office were in the old house, or Kawananakoa house.
Oh my goodness. So no dormitory, no gym.
Dormitory was in an old army barracks.
You know, that's a common theme I've heard many times. Those army barracks that were discontinued, turning into schools, dormitories,
Right.
and all kinds of uses throughout this island.
They also used it for a school library.
Oh man, wonderful. So maybe let's back up a little bit and tell us about your childhood and where you started going to school and how you got involved with HMA.
I got involved with HMA for grade 1.
Wow.
And that was quite a while ago.
Yeah.
During my schooling there, as far as elementary is concerned, our class was during the time of the war, and we were among the first classes that had English as a second language.
Oh, really?
So my class for 7th grade was held down at Matlock, across from the park. So we had two 7th grade classes.
Wow.
And two 8th grade.
And because most of the students were learning
A number of them, yeah, one whole classroom was English as a second language.
Wow. And wow, that's interesting. I never thought of that before. So most of these kids are speaking their first language, their parents' language at home. And ESL, which means something a little different now, at least, right?
Yes.
It's not the local kids, it's the international kids. But
Right.
back then it was the local kids.
And they had to come in on a certain certification.
Oh, wow.
They paid their tuition a year in advance.
Really? Interesting. So tell us a little bit about some of the fun memories you remember about HMA.
I don't know if it's fun.
You had to have fun one
But
time.
World War II started when I was in the elementary school.
Yeah.
And we had to wear gas masks.
Oh, man. Yeah, that's not fun.
What else was there? Our teachers were, well, like say my 5th grade teacher was Alice Boyd. She actually went over to start the Molokai's school. But she liked to do hiking. So we'd go hiking up Tantalus with her, start down at elementary school and walk up to Papakolea and then over to the hiking trails.
Yeah. And I'm sure back then there was a lot more trails and a lot less homes,
And less traffic.
less traffic. Yeah. And so you've seen the whole Makiki area change all around those schools.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Auntie, can you share a little history about how the Hawaiian Mission Academy got the new campus that was opened in 1950?
I'm not versed on that. I know that there was a Mr. Bieber who was the principal at the time. And I'm sort of veering away from what you just asked me, but he became the principal at Monterey Bay Academy
Oh, after.
after that.
Okay. So Mr. Bieber was the principal during the transition, or at
Yes.
least the development of the.
He was principal, I think, from 1946, somewhere around there, to 1950.
So what were some of your favorite classes that you took in HMA?
Spanish.
Spanish.
I took that as a major at PUC.
You did? Wow.
And I taught it for a year at HMA.
So wait, so you actually went from HMA to PUC right back to HMA? You did? And so...
That was an interesting situation,
Yeah.
but they almost didn't hire me because they felt that the students wouldn't treat me as a teacher. They would, and one of those was your dad.
Oh.
Your dad was in the class of 54, 55.
Oh, my grandpa.
Your grandpa.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, he was naughty then, yeah?
Huluhi. But it was the transition was very moved very nicely. You know,
Yeah.
we moved over
Yeah.
very nicely. My first year in high school was 46, 47. My class, I think, graduated with 88 students. So with that in mind, a year and a half, 2 years ago, I think they had a school enrollment of 88.
I know.
And
Yeah.
I'm saying, wow.
Wow.
That's
1/4, yeah. Yeah. So when you graduated in 1950, you go to PUC for
4 years.
4 years, and you're back teaching 1955.
55, 56.
Yeah. And you're teaching Spanish.
I taught Spanish
Yeah.
and secretarial science.
And some of your students, or a lot of your students, probably as a local girl, they know you. And so how was that? How was that
That's what
transition
the
for you?
principal was worried about.
Yeah. So how did you handle that? How did you become teacher to all those students?
Thanks to one of the persons on the school board was Brother Miranda, who is still a Crouch's grandfather.
Yeah.
And his point was, she's a local girl, yes, but he believed that training at home was such that I would be able to, get people to call me by my Miss Kahula
Yeah.
rather than Rachel, you
Yep.
know.
Yep.
And there was no problem at all.
Yeah.
The young folks there, they respected me and they
Yeah.
called me Miss Kahula.
Yeah.
So the principal had no real reason to feel,
Yeah.
worried about that.
Yeah. So Mr. Miranda really believed in you, saw you could be professional, and that was actually a bonus that
Well,
you were.
actually, he saw me grow up, so.
Yeah. So Aunty, you started teaching Spanish and secretarial science, but you were at HMA for a good time, huh?
Well, I was there for 55, 56, 54, 55, 55, 56. But back in those days, females were not paid the same amount as men. That kind of got me a little bit disturbed. And so I told my parents that I was not going to continue working there. My mother was rather disturbed about that. But I said, Mom, you and Dad, and I have to remember my dad was not an Adventist at the time, have put out tuition for me the same as they have. Now, they're getting paid more than I am. I don't think that's fair. So I said, I'm going to quietly ask to go elsewhere. And she asked where I had planned to go, and I said, I have, there's an opening at the mission office, not a conference office, a mission office, for a person to work in the Book and Bible House. I'm going to apply for that. And I was accepted.
Wow.
So I went to work for that. There was another reason too, but I don't think I'll reveal that reason.
That's okay.
But that was one of the. So I went to work for the ABC, and sometimes people get tired of doing something that they're accustomed to doing for a long period of time, and I wanted to go see what it was like out in the world. So in 56, 57, I went to work for the city and county.
You did?
Police department.
Oh, wow.
That was a very interesting experience because the police chief at that time was Chief Dan Liu, who had been at Hawaiian Mission Academy in English as a second language program.
Oh, wow.
So I remember the day that I reported for work, I was asked to go to the chief's office, and I wondered, what did I do now? I entered the office, and he invited me to have a seat, and then he says, I understand that you're a graduate of Hawaiian Mission Academy? Yes. And I said, and I think you were one too. And he says, yes, you're right. But he says, the police department works 7 days a week. Are you a member of the church? And I said, yes, I am. Well, how are you going to arrange your working on Saturdays? Because the schedule is worked on a basis that you move along. You don't have a regular 5-day week. And I said, well, I've made arrangements with the 2 other girls that work the same type of work that I'm doing to take my Friday night and Saturdays, and I will take all of their Monday through Sunday through Friday.
Wow.
And he says, oh, and they did agree to do that? And I said, yes, they did. So things went quite well for quite some time. And then one Sabbath morning, I was a little bit longer and getting ready to go to church. The telephone rang at home. I picked it up, and it was one of the sergeants. He says, Rachel, the girls aren't able to come today. We've had an accident that's involved fatality, and we need to have you come and get stenographic statements. And I said, well, you know that I don't work on Saturdays. Yeah, but, can you make it a special thing that come take care of that today? I said, no, I can't. But I can come tonight if they are willing to make that, take that arrangement. He said, oh, okay, let me go try check them out. Can you wait? I'll call you back. So he checked with them, and thank the Lord, they were willing to come back that evening. In fact, they were happier to come back in that evening.
Yeah.
So when he called back to tell me, I said, oh, good, then I'll just prepare everything for court. You'll be ready to go on Monday.
Wow.
So that was the only experience I had where my Sabbath was going to be infringed upon.
Yeah.
But I worked for them for 7 years.
Wow. As a stenographer.
Actually for a reporter.
Reporter, wow. Wow. And so you were dealing with the police department and then preparing them for the courts and making sure everything was in order? Wow.
That was an experience that I didn't know I would experience to say, okay, I'm not going to work on my Sabbath.
Yeah. Yeah.
That could have been, I said, oh, well, just for one time, okay.
Yeah. So, I guess when I think about school, we think about education, math, science,
Right.
Spanish. But HMA has maybe a different component of education, and that's character, relationship with God.
Right. especially.
What memories or what lessons did you take from HMA that you carried with you through your life?
Willing to do the Lord's service where I've been asked to help. Um, you know, when I look back at the number of years of service to the Lord, I've been an elder, which for some time, and I know even for now, females are not in that position.
A lot of places. Yeah.
In a lot of places. In fact, I understand it's not really something that's, because when I look at all the lists of names, I'm the only female that's here for Hawaii conference as a female. But it's given me the opportunity to know how our church works, to be able to help arrange for filling positions and being a nominating committee chairperson to fill in the positions that the church wants to have. I think all of this though goes back to my mother. I was 11 months old when she became an Adventist. My father, however, was not an Adventist until after I graduated from PUC. So you can imagine that's 12 years in the academy, and then 4 years in college. 16 years later, he becomes an Adventist. But he is the one that kept me at HMA. And I tell you why. My 10th grade year, I was tired of HMA. When I went home, I told my mother, I don't want to go back to HMA. I don't want to finish HMA. I want to go to another school. And she asked, what school? And I said, Kamehameha. And she says, oh, well, wait till Dad comes home and we'll talk about it. In my mind, I thought, duck soup. Dad's not an Adventist. He's a Hawaiian. Both Mom and Dad spoke the language fluently, but they didn't teach me that language. Dad comes home, and I rushed to the door, and I said, Papa, I gotta talk to you. Then in those days, you didn't have a telephone in your pocket.
Yep. You gotta wait till they come
Gotta
home.
wait to come home. Daddy, I gotta talk to you. Okay, Pepe, let me go change clothes and get comfortable. So we waited, and when he was ready, he said, okay, come, let's talk. What do you want to talk about? Papa, I am tired of Hawaiian Mission Academy. I've been going there for 10 years. Why are you tired? I said, Mama, just same old, same old. He says, we're asked, where do you want to go? I want to go to Kamehameha. Well, Pepe, I see nothing wrong with Hawaiian Mission Academy. You stay right where you are. Those days, you don't argue with your parents.
That was it. Decided.
That was it. Wow. So that's how I finished Hawaiian Mission Academy.
Wow. Wow.
And then to go into college, you know, I thought maybe University of Hawaii or something like that. But he says, well, I thought Elder McCaig was a local elder at Keomuku Street Church. He had been talking about Pacific Union College, Emmanuel Missionary College at the time. And I thought, oh, it'd be good to go far away. So I said, oh, I think I'll go to EMC. All right. But came to my senior year, EMC is a little bit too far away from home. And the plan was for me to stay in college 4 years.
And not come back.
And not come
Stay
back.
There, yeah.
And I thought, okay, to myself, but I didn't want to be that far away, so I went to PUC. And I'm not sorry that I did. I enjoyed it very much there. But it was Papa that said, I miss my daughter. So each summer, I was able to come
Oh,
home.
you were. Wow.
But I know they had to, they had to sacrifice
Yeah.
for that.
I'm sure.
But he wanted to see his Pepe.
Oh. What did your parents do for work?
Mom was a teacher, elementary school teacher. She was an unusual individual, I would say, because at 13 she was training to be a teacher.
At 13?
At 13. The reason was
Yeah.
her father was a minister in the Congregational Church system, and in Kaupo, Maui, all 8th grades were together. She had a brother a year older than she. He was very good in math and very good in science, and she was very good in social studies and English. So can you imagine what happened there? She did the lessons for both of them in English and science and social studies, and he did the math. And so by the time she was 13, they were able to take her into teacher training.
Wow. Oh my goodness.
So she was out teaching at 17.
Wow. Amazing.
But her teaching experience was in Hana and in Ke'anai,
Okay.
Maui.
Yeah. Wow.
That's
What a remarkable young person.
yes.
Yeah.
So she's put in 42 years of teaching experience.
Wow. And it's in some ways your mother kind of set a pattern for you, being a student that was respected and coming back and teaching.
I think in Mama's family, they were all teachers.
They were.
Auntie at University of Hawaii, uncle at first of all Kalakaua, and then Farrington.
Farrington. And then what did your father do for work?
Papa? Well, he was originally an ironworks person until he had a bad accident, and he couldn't carry things. So he became a taxi driver.
Oh, wow. Just down here in Honolulu. Oh, wow. And so he wasn't an Adventist, you said, until you graduated from PUC, but he saw the value in Hawaii Mission Academy.
He did.
Yeah, and he wanted you to stick with it.
Definitely.
You know, you got to think how God's hand is in all that. When you thought duck soup, you said, Mom says, I talk to Dad, he can decide. Do you think you got an easy way out?
Right.
And God's working on his heart the whole time, you know?
Yeah, and I think I don't think, I know that in everything I did, he had a definite hand in it. From finding somebody to get married to, I didn't find him. He found me.
How'd that happen?
That's interesting too. You know him as Uncle Herb.
Say that again?
You know him as Uncle Herb?
Yeah, Uncle Herb.
Okay. Uncle Herb has, it'll take a long time to tell about his history, but he was raised in China. He was born here. His father sold him because he gambled. He was a Mormon. He gambled. He owed a lot of money to this one particular person, and he sold my husband.
Wow. How old was he when that happened?
At birth.
At birth.
So he didn't know his own parents, his real parents, until circumstances, and I say it's the Lord that worked things out, but at 12 years of age, and this was now, Chinese was his first language. He comes home because there's a war between China and Japan. So that mother over there sends him home to his, well, let me go back. That Chinese father had a wife over in China and a wife over here. So that wife sends him back to this wife here in Honolulu. He doesn't get along because the kids are teasing him. He doesn't speak English. And So instead of going to school properly, he goes to the old Chinese theater, spends time there during the day, and when he thinks it's time to go home, so his parents won't question him, he goes home. They didn't realize until he was in junior high school when they found out that's what he was doing.
Oh man.
So there was some other things that came up in between time that he decided to go into the military. So when he was 17 years of age, he went into the military, put in 8 years there. When he came out, he had to come out because he was badly injured, and from being in Japan area, I mean close to Japan area. So he had to quit military and go look for a job. Well, that's when he decided to go to HMA.
Oh man.
That's where I met him.
When you say go to HMA, so this is after
Those 8
war.
years.
So how old is he when he goes to HMA?
Oh, let's see. 3, 8, almost about 20.
Yeah. Wow.
And he wanted to get his GED.
Did
Then-
HMA have an adult program, or did he
No.
just go right
He
in
went
with
in
the rest?
he went in as a sophomore, junior,
A junior?
as a junior.
Wow. Oldest guy in the class. Yeah. That's so adventurous and humble, though, to say, this is what I want to do,
Yeah.
and I want to learn. Wow. And so you met him there.
Well, I got to know who he was there, but it wasn't until your grandmother. No, Auntie Abby is
Oh, my great-grandmother.
great grandmother.
Yeah.
She's the one I think that got him thinking about talking to me.
Oh, really? Matchmaker.
So that's how I got to know
Yeah.
him.
And what was your guys' age difference?
4 years.
4 years. But same class or
No,
no?
no, I was already teaching,
You were teaching. Oh my goodness, I love this story.
and he was in my typing class.
What? Oh man.
So the year that I decided to go to work for the mission office,
Yeah.
that had a little something to do with it too.
I see. Yep. Oh man, what a story.
Yeah, but I think the Lord had a hand in all of this.
Yeah.
I did have a young man that I was going with at college,
Yeah.
but my parents said, well, I had made a deal with them, sort of. I said, well, I'll come and work it for 2 years before I get married.
Okay.
And so
Yeah.
I came home for the 2 years, and that period of time got to meet Uncle Herb.
Wow. Wow. Man, that's a beautiful story. There's
Oh, well, yeah, I think that the Lord has given me a beautiful life.
yeah. Well, Auntie, I know you've shared that beautiful life with so many people, being a blessing here at Honolulu Central, Hawaiian Mission Academy, in this community. And I think the conference as a whole has been blessed by your consistent leadership over the years. I know you've had so many different roles in the church and in school work. Is there any last thing you want to share with us about Hawaiian Mission Academy, or anything you want people to know?
Well, I would surely like to see more of our young people, more of our children able to go to, Adventist children, able to go to our school. I would like to encourage them to do that. I really don't know why they don't, except maybe for some of them it's the expense. But I think if their parents made a little bit of sacrifice, that might help.
Because that's what you saw your parents do. And for generations, they saw the value and the investment in a Adventist Christian education.
Yes.
Yeah. I think that's a lesson for us today.
Yeah, and especially for us Hawaiians,
Yeah.
because I don't see very many of them in our schools.
Yeah.
But we don't have as many of them in our churches either.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's another thing.
There's some outreach and missional work to do with our Hawaiian community for sure.
Yes. Yes. Well, as long as I shouldn't say as long, but the more that they're pushing Hawaiian in many ways, government as well as schooling and so forth, could have some.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Auntie Ray, thank you very much for spending time with us and sharing your story.
Well, I hope it's worth something.
I would say so. Thank you.
You're welcome.